That's George. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. My name is Brad Waldschmidt. I work with the Nashville Department of Transportation on the traffic calming program, and we're here to talk to you all today about Masonwood Drive. Now I'll let you introduce yourself, Liz.
We also have an online option, so I will be on the chat and making sure that everyone
Yeah, so two things real quick. Normally we set up a projector or something and give you all a presentation where you can look at things, but also people who are calling in on the internet can also look at that. So if you see me holding this computer wondering why I'm wearing an earpiece, it's actually for the microphone. So if people are calling in, they can hear me. So that's why I'm wearing this and holding the computer. Secondly, there's not a good lighting or space for the presentation. I feel very confident we can talk through everything. But council member, I did want to ask, did NDOT send you the presentation? And I said, so I wanted to let you know, and George, I wanted to let you know that what we're going to talk through, the council member does have that. We can also send it to you. So if you want to share it with the neighborhood, maybe Monday or whenever we send it to you, there is that option. So I just want to let you know, apologies for not having good lighting, but I think we can talk through everything. Um, so, so we're here to talk about Masonwood Drive and traffic calming. So we kind of want to talk through what traffic calming is, why Masonwood got chosen, some of the things that maybe we can try to do to help alleviate all the cars driving really fast on Masonwood, and maybe sort of what we're thinking about for maybe what a design might look like, and then what the next steps are. That's kind of what we just want to spend about 10 or 12 minutes or so talking with you all. Um, the first thing is we like to make sure people understand traffic calming. There's really three things to it. There's education, enforcement, like the officer there, and engineering, like us that who deal with the streets. Education is this meeting, like a meeting like this is great where we can learn about Masonwood. And we've learned some being out there and being engineers, but we like hearing from you all as well. But then you all can also kind of understand traffic calming. What are some options? What aren't? Education is so important. Enforcement is also important. The speed limit signs, enforcement of those speeds. That is a very much an important thing. But a third thing that can also help is engineering, doing something to the roads. Sometimes it's putting something in the streets that cars have to drive over sometimes to sort of manage their speeds a little better. One of the three isn't the solution. It's really all three combined together to try to make these streets a little safer. So the traffic calming program, we focus on residential streets. We try to make sure that we're going to design something that's going to reduce the speeds. So like Dickerson Pike and Brickchurch Pike, we don't look at those things for traffic calming. There might be some homes, but those aren't really residential streets. We're talking more about like Richmond Hill, streets right here, Masonwood. Those are what this program is really meant for. For it's their people. This is the people's. This is your neighborhood. You know, you want to have a neighborhood where you don't have to be worried about the fast cars. That's really what this neighborhood street traffic calming program is all about. Um, and like I mentioned, we're looking at usually we look at one street at a time. And this particular time, we're here to talk about Masonwood. Um, and real quick, we're going to talk about a lot of traffic calming things, but I want to make sure, and NDOT wants to make sure you all know about Hub Nashville. Can you give me? I'm really curious. Can you raise your hand if you've used Hub Nashville ever before? That is wonderful. I'm excited. Hub Nashville is a great resource. If you see something you think the city needs to know about, you can either call or you can go on the internet and make a Hub Nashville. If you've ever thought that doesn't look right, someone at the city needs to know, but I'm not sure who to call at the city, that's exactly what Hub Nashville is for. And you can route you to exactly what you want to do. So we always like to make sure people, you don't have to do that for traffic calming. We're here. We're here to talk to you about Masonwood, but there's other things. Did you ever just want to make sure? Oh, that's a great example. Potholes or, oh, yes. That's right. So you don't have to do that for traffic calming, but everything else, we like to make sure everyone knows about it. Thank you very much for adding to that. So the neighborhood traffic calming program is very popular. Over 400 streets in Nashville have been asked for, hey, Nashville, can we do something? But with the budget, the wonderful budget that Metro Council approves in the budget, only so many streets can get selected. This in July, Masonwood, what we're here to talk about, was one of the streets that got selected. And what Nashville does is does Nashville figure out which streets of the 400? Well, they look at data. We go out and collect data to see how fast are these cars going on your street. And that was done on Masonwood along with all the other streets. Have there been many crashes along Masonwood? And then is there a higher chance that people on Masonwood might be walking on the street, so things like schools, like you got the school, churches, parks, that's usually higher chance people are going to be walking, higher chance someone could get really hurt if there's a speeding car. So all that kind of NDOT looks at all that data. In this case, Mason was one of the ones that, hey, we need to talk with the neighborhood and talk with council member about doing some traffic calming on Masonwood. So we're here talking about the Brick Church Pike. I want to make sure we know from Brick Church Pike to Morewood Drive. I think Masonwood actually goes a little further east past Morewood, but we're just talking about Brick Church to Morewood. So basically right past, as you can turn off from Brick Church, past the school, going up the hill, going down the hill, and then right to Morewood. That's kind of the part we're talking about. And so could you please raise your hand? I was trying to listen at the very beginning. If you live on Masonwood. Excellent. So about 4 of you all in the room. That's helpful. I just want to make sure I knew who actually lives on Masonwood. Um, and so what we want to kind of talk through now is some of the typical solutions that we can do as Nashville Department of Transportation. One of them is called speed cushions. You may have driven over them on streets before. They're usually black. They're usually rubberized. You drive over them. You usually don't. Sometimes people may want to go the posted speed limit over them. Some people may want to slow their speeds a little below. It's very uncomfortable if you're speeding and going over them. That's kind of the point. We're trying to manage the vehicle speeds. So if you've ever seen some of the black rubberized things, maybe there's like 2 smaller ones, sometimes 3 smaller ones. Those are speed cushions. And so that's one option that we have. Another option we have is the radar feedback signs. If you've ever driven and you've seen a sign kind of start flashing the number at you all, that's a radar feedback sign that kind of lets people know when they're speeding, like, hey, you're, posted speed limits here, and you got that blinky flashing sign. For some people, I'll be very honest with you, for some people that may not work. They may, that's the truth. That's the truth. But there's also some people that sometimes you get zoned out, you start thinking about something else. You're driving on a street and you see that and you're like, oh my goodness, I wasn't even thinking. I didn't realize I was going that fast. It can help for some people. There's not always a 100% solution for everything. That is an option though, and it does help for some people. Another option is sometimes if you have a neighborhood street that's just really wide, you just drive on, you think, my gosh, there's like this a very, very wide street. That sometimes makes people want to go a little faster because it's just wider. So sometimes NDOT will put down white pavement marking lines to sort of narrow where the cars are supposed to drive. Even that, just us as motorists when we're driving, seeing that there's a kind of a smaller space where I'm supposed to be as a driver, that can actually reduce speeds. So that is another tool that we sometimes look at. There is something called speed tables. If you've ever driven over, I described the speed cushions earlier. If you've ever driven over a speed table, which is longer, and it's just like one large thing that goes over the entire road, that's a speed table. So we try to make sure people know if it's going one thing over the whole road, that's a table. If it's smaller things, that those are cushions, but they're made of the same material. Either way, your cars are driving over it. That's the point. We're trying to reduce these speeds to really deter excessive speeding. And then there's some other tools. There's one called a chicane, again, for wider pavement, where you kind of have to kind of turn your steering wheel a little bit, maybe through pavement markings, or maybe a concrete gets built out, just to prevent cars from being able to go straight on a straight road. Sometimes we at NDOT can actually build something that kind of cars you have to just, because if you're turning your steering wheel a little bit, usually you're going a little slower, just usually, not all, but usually. And then the last option that we yeah, I apologize. I'm gonna kind of walk around. There's an option, a picture on the left that kind of shows there's some markings that kind of, it's not quite zigzag. It's not quite zigzag, but it's kind of like that. Thank you very much for that suggestion. And so you kind of have to turn your steering wheel as I'm walking around the room to kind of show people what that might look like. And then just kind of, and I want to make sure that, did I leave anybody out? I want to make sure I didn't leave any. Oh, George, I didn't get you. So this is sort of. You kind of have to turn your steering wheel to keep driving straight on that road. And then one option, kind of the last one we kind of look at is traffic circles. They're kind of like roundabouts, but much, much smaller for neighborhood intersections. Sometimes we can find a good spot for those. To be very honest, sometimes they're challenging because we try to make the traffic circles as an engineer. I think they can be very helpful and good, just in general. That's my opinion. But we always try to make sure school buses can get around them and have enough room. And a lot of times we can't just put a circle and have a school bus get around without falling off the road. So the traffic calming program, we don't do pavement widening. We don't do road widening. We're not taking anybody's yard. So usually if we see a traffic circle is going to require something more substantial, we kind of strike it off the list because we don't want to be making the project longer or doing any sort of property or anything or widening. So we can look at that, but a lot of times the traffic circles, there's just not enough room at intersections for that school bus to be able to go around. So I want to close with sort of the process, and then I'll kind of want to talk through what we think your design may look like along Masonwood. So we're here at this first meeting. We're going to kind of talk through the conceptual design of like what we think may be a good solution for Masonwood. There is a graphic, again, council member, you have that, George. We can make sure you have that. We can also feel free to walk around in about a few minutes and kind of show it just like I did as well. It doesn't have to be the final answer, but it's sort of our preliminary answer. So we're here at this first meeting to show you that preliminary design, maybe get some feedback. After this, we're going to actually do a little more field work in the next few weeks and prepare a little more final design. We'll have a second meeting just like this. It could be in person, it could be on the internet, or it could be both. It's totally whatever you all prefer. But we'd have a second meeting just like this where we would probably be set up better to be able to put something on a projection. I don't know if it'll be a different room. We can work through that. But show you the final design that we think is the right solution for Masonwood. That'll be the second meeting. Could be in late October or early November. So this won't, in the next few months is when we would have that. And then the next step is once we kind of get some feedback on that final design, we're going to put it out to vote. NDOT, whatever traffic calming design we kind of come up with, we don't just put it out there. It gets put out to a vote on the people who live along Masonwood. So what we'll do is NDOT Metro will send out, kind of like some of you hopefully got for this meeting here, we'll send another round of mailers where you can go to the internet. If you don't have internet, there's also a phone number where you can cast your vote for whether you want to vote yes or no for the design on Masonwood. Again, that'll happen kind of much later this year. We're not there yet. But some people may want to vote yes. I want this traffic calming on my street on Masonwood. You can vote yes. And if you don't like it, you can vote no. And if there's 2/3 of the people who actually vote, if 2/3 of those people vote yes, then the street's going to get the traffic calming. But if it doesn't get 2/3 yes, then the street's not going to get the traffic calming. And so that's the vote. That's right, 66%. Yeah, so that's the voting. So everything we're doing here is sort of putting forth the best design to calm traffic, and then it truly is up to the people along Masonwood to vote and decide if that's something they want or not. So that's the next step. Yeah. So what I want to do now, I think I'm going to kind of walk through the conceptual design, and I will again I will walk around the room again. That seemed to be the most. So what we're proposing is those speed cushions. That's our initial design for what we're suggesting. In the black rubberized things. I think given how wide Masonwood is, you'd probably have 3 at each spot on your street. So if you were standing on Masonwood, you'd probably see 3 of them across your street. And what we're currently proposing is 3 locations of those along Masonwood. So at each location, you'd have 3, and then you'd have 3 of those. And the reason is because that hill, I bet, yeah. So yeah, when we could see how people that want to speed might be speeding on that hill. What we have to be careful of is these speed cushions. NDOT comes in and they actually bolt them into the pavement, and there's certain like steepness of hill where they can't put them in. Otherwise, when cars hit them, they might break off. So the steep parts of the hill, we can't really put anything there. But what our design we're trying to do is to kind of put them on either side of the hill and then right at the top of the hill where it gets flat. So that's kind of what we looked at is we think we can put 3 locations, one right at the top of that hill, kind of where it kind of right there, and then on either side, kind of it starts leveling off, one on either side of there. Those are the 3 spots that we've sort of identified because again, the steepness of that hill. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, for lack of a better, that is for Morewood Drive. It is. The pictures look, yeah, we've been swapping out the photos because instead of having those yellow lines, we do white triangles. But initially, it. So I've got a better picture right here. George, I'll start with you because last time I saved you for last. So, but that's kind of an example of what I'm. In fact, I'm going to zoom in. I think that might be even a better idea. George, I clicked the button and I shouldn't have. That's all it is. But we try to make sure we're communicating well. Excellent. But yeah, so here are the photo examples in that upper right corner, and everywhere you see that kind of SC on is sort of where we'd be talking about. That middle one's kind of right at the top of the middle, and the other 2 sort of. But you can see the photo of what they would actually look like. So I'll go ahead and keep going around the room. I think this is working out well. That's kind of what they'd look like, and those SCs are sort of where we think they might be. With that middle of the 3 is right there at the top of that hill. So that's, again, the top right sort of what they look like, and then where they could be. So, and again, so this is sort of what we've come up with. Oh, yes, you have a question. Yes.
You know the intersection at Masonwood and Multimodal.
Yes.
I mean, it's like they don't even stop. I mean, is it any way four-way stop could be?
That's a good question.
They do not stop. My light flashed before my eyes one day. I've probably been sitting here for a few seconds.
Thank you for bringing that up. So it sounds like Masonwood and Morewood. Masonwood doesn't have to stop, but sounds like some people choose maybe not to stop at Morewood. All right.
Keep going.
So that's a good.
Yeah.
Oh, gee. But if you no. Yeah, so stop signs are not done as traffic calming because what we found is there's 2 different types of neighborhoods. Neighborhoods that don't have as many stop signs as they'd like and want more stop signs, and then people who have a bunch of all-way stops and are frustrated when people aren't stopping at them because sometimes they're not needed based on engineering studies. I'm just being very so what I would encourage you to do is that hub Nashville or that 311, that is a great thing. You can absolutely submit that. We won't do it as part of traffic calming, but Hub Nashville is a wonderful way where you can at least make sure that NDOT, it won't be us personally, but someone else's NDOT's going to do a study to figure out, for instance, should it be an all-way stop? If not, are those stop signs on Morewood, are they visible, or can NDOT do something to make sure people are seeing the stop signs? Those are some things where if you make that Hub Nashville request, somebody will go and take a look at that. And Councilmember, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to add Masonwood
It's not four-way stop.
Correct, it's not.
They coming from
Right.
both directions, but they just keep going. They don't stop. They do that at the Richmond Hill and that four-way stop.
in Atlanta, the flashing stop signs.
I do know what you're talking about.
LED flashing stop. As soon as you get to it, it starts flashing. Stop.
They see that stop sign, but they disregard it. Lights or no light, they still gonna do the same thing. Along the road, but we're gonna get these speed bumps at different places. It's just gonna slow down a lot.
But I'm not saying it's gonna stop and make them stop at stop sign.
I think it's gonna make you make it sign. Oh, questions and sign. I think.
When you can't have
All Spanish,
call,
Mm-hmm.
I saw you Lopez, and it might not be able to catch him, but he'll know about it.
Mm.
And had a sign for the don't tractor trailers. Somebody not talking in and it's still not being. And we have a lot of tractor and trailers that come through.
Did you call that 311 that hub Nashville? Okay, yeah. Okay. Yes, of course.
Spoken of process of the little area, whatever the concrete where you go around. But we already have obstacles on the street with people parking there.
That's right.
I mean, another as well. I mean, that same park, they have the no parking sign. And I can see we have guests, but all night and all day long, there should not be a parking space on them.
Gotcha. On Masonwood, you mean? So I've got two because I have three thoughts based on. So first of all, I don't think we would look at the chicanes for traffic calmings. So, but I think I focus on the speed cushions and not chains. Secondly, I hear your point. When cars park on the street, they could be obstacles. And if you wanted to try to designate a street as a no parking, I believe that is also something you can do through Hub Nashville, maybe the Traffic Parking Commission. We wouldn't do it through traffic calming. I believe, I'm going to summarize this. Please do not quote me on this, but I believe that the people whose front yards, whose properties it impacts would have to kind of sign off on no parking. But that's something you could do outside of traffic calming. The last thing I'll mention is sometimes on-street parking can actually help slow vehicle speeds. It comes back to if you're a driver and maybe but if I'm thinking about Masonwood, it's about 24 to 26 feet wide of pavement, and if there were no cars and I was someone who wanted to speed really fast, I'd see that wide pavement. I'd go, I can really, but those on-street parking, those cars are obstacles, but they're also something that someone wants to speed might be seeing. They may not want to ding up their whatever car. So it sort of can have either way benefit. Honestly, I usually like it when I see on-street parking that's happening because I know that might be a deterrent from people wanting to hit maybe as high of a speed. So, but it's totally you have the power to submit that request for no parking if you'd like. Yeah. But yeah, so that's sort of our presentation. Again, council member, I think you have the files, and George, if you'd like, we can try to make sure we get you those files as well. Absolutely. Yeah, or tell you what, George, I will email my contact info if that works for you so that you have it. Because I know you're working with Amy on a few others that I'm less involved with, but we'll be working on this one. But yeah, our next steps, again, will be to actually prepare sort of a final design. I kind of walked around and showed that graphic. It's not very detailed. We're just kind of showing you where the next step will be a more final design where each one of those cushions, we're going to show you like what street address they'd be in front of. We want to get very, very specific so you can tell exactly where we're proposing these to be. So that's the kind of level of detail that we like to make sure people can kind of see. We expect we'll be back to see you all in the next couple of months. Again, I would think it's probably going to be, the more I think about it with all the many streets we're working on, might be more like an early November to have a similar meeting like this and show that design. And again, that last step, you'll get mailers, again, like you did for this meeting, advertising the meeting. And after that second meeting, the final step will be that 6-week voting process where you all will also, if you live on Masonwood, you'll get your ballots in the mail and you will have the opportunity to vote yes for the traffic calming on Masonwood or no for the traffic calming on Masonwood. And if it's 66% of those who vote say yes, you're getting the traffic calming. And if not, you're not getting the traffic calming.
Well, decisions based on satellite visual physically going to Mason watching this track?
We do our design on an aerial satellite image, but we go out on Masonwood. We were out there, what, Thursday and Friday? So yesterday and 2 days ago, but we're not doing it to necessarily watch traffic because again, we collected the speed data on 400 plus streets. We've seen, I can't remember what oh, so it would have been earlier this year. We laid some black tubes across the street. And then as cars go over, it's collecting how fast those cars are going over the tubes. So we did that for 400 plus streets in Nashville. I think it was back in the winter or springtime. And that's how we collect the speed data. But then when it comes to the design, that's what we were doing out there, making sure, again, I mentioned you can't put it on too steep of a hill. We were actually out there, Liz, I think you and I and Jara as well. We were measuring where on that hill is good, where on that hill is too steep. So we were out there yesterday and Thursday. Yes.
They haven't had a bad
Right. Yeah.
Right at our driveway.
They were paying going up the hill. Maybe the fifth house on the left.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some people just don't let it. And then we're in a way, wait, I'd be willing to walk it down. We won't rejoice. And because nobody responded, then it's
Yeah. Thank you. So I'd like to summarize the old process before July 1st and the new process that we're here talking about. The old process was that we would give you a petition. Every address along Masonwood would be on that. And you all would have to go get 70%, 70% of all the properties to sign off. That's what the process was before July 1st. Very few neighborhoods got it completed. And
I think it depends on
right, that's true. So they
and what they found is a lot of the property people were renting there.
and
So property owner never gets the letter. And make a determination of both, and it depends on the
we can share that feedback with NDOT. I just want to let you know I hear you, but many neighborhoods found it very challenging. And nothing's stopping you all from still doing that to make sure people know about the postcard coming. But so okay. I can talk with NDOT on if they'd want to give you all the option either or.
What we've done, you know, we knocked on doors, all sun, knocked on doors, and we had all kinds of challenges. We couldn't get it done. We got quite a few signatures. I mean, all over Belleville. But you'll have to do more than one because I know for a fact you could do it one time, you're gonna miss quite a few people. You have to keep going over it, back, over and over again until you get those people. Now, what I had talked to Amy Birch about, she's gonna send. Well, I gotta get to with her again. She's gonna start sending those postcards out, and then those that she didn't get a response from, she's gonna allow us to help her knock on the door and get responses from the ones that she didn't get. Then and cards in it. And that will make the process a lot easier for both of us. Absolutely. We want it done it ASAP.
No, I'll take that feedback and talk with NDOT more. Appreciate you bringing that up. So yeah, so the previous was 70% of all the homes along Masonwood had to sign it. Now it's 2/3 of the people who actually vote. So the example I like to get, I know there's not 100 homes on Masonwood, but I like to, the math, it's easier for me. If you had 100 homes on your street, previously you had to make sure you got 70 signatures. Now, if 10 people vote, if only 10 people vote, but 7 of them vote yes, that's 70% that of those who voted. So that's well so that's why we say 2/3 of those who vote. Right. Those were the changes. NDOT heard the challenges, and NDOT with some feedback from councilmen. Correct. Yeah. Nothing to do with elections. It's just. So yeah. So again, so it's only 2/3 of those who actually vote, which means if people don't care. But previously, when it was 70% of all the homes on a street, if someone just didn't care, that could actually count against it. And so that's why NDOT's changed it to some. If somebody with the voting, if someone doesn't care, it doesn't count either way. It doesn't count either way. It's just who cared, and then if who cared to vote, how many were yes, how many were no. That's the new. And very last minute, Westchester did get it. They did get it under the old petition. So Westchester, yeah, they did get it. Yes. Actually, we can still I'm curious now, so we're still going to ask NDOT about the option, but hopefully that helped clarify. Okay. We will, yes, once we speak with NDOT, we'll make sure that the council member and George know. And remember, there's that second meeting we'll be having, so we'll also be able to repeat what's going to happen then as well. You're welcome. Well, thank you.
Don't stop it. Masonwood now. We're gonna need your help all over. We still got several streets that needs to be solved.
Yeah, so I think so I could be wrong. I believe Richmond Hill and Morewood were selected back in December, whereas Masonwood was like hot off the press 2 months ago. So there's just multiple kind of rounds that Net Metro Nashville selects. So you all are a little further. So I think if I'm correct, you're one of the examples of the petition effort. It didn't stall. So we're actually converting. We're not wanting to punish. We're converting up to that new process because we heard so much metro-wide feedback on this isn't working. So I think that's what you're talking about, switching. I think so, since she's been. I think Amy's been more involved with that one, so she'd be able to know. Yeah, I'll be more involved with Masonwood with Liz. So. Well, so the petition again was not successful because of all those struggles. So what we're talking about with this future vote for Masonwood, we've got to work with George and the neighborhood to do that effort. Even though the design's kind of final, we're calling it a restart. So we got to do that vote. And then if on the streets, if there's 2/3 of those who vote yes, then NDOT is going to put the order in. They got to order it from the place in the US that manufactures the speed cushions. They got to wait. They got to wait for the delivery. Mhm.
They also have the little.
Yeah. When did Gibson get theirs? Do you know?
I would say this Westchester, and Tuckahoe.
But
Now, they did have a delay.
the the neighborhood also, it kind of expanded on how big that project was with 5 different streets. So here's what I think is a very reasonable time frame for Masonwood. You can expect that second meeting in early November or so. And then my hope would be before Thanksgiving, those mailer ballots go out. And that's 6 weeks. There's 6 weeks that we allow for voting, which means I would think before the end of the year, before New Year's Eve, we would know, did you get the 2/3 or did you not get the 2/3? All right, well, I love the optimism. I love it. But what? But once we know the voting results, if it's a thumbs up, if it's good, then it could take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to order the materials, get those things here from the manufacturer, then get a contractor squared away to go put them out there. So if all goes well, it could be February or early March for when you'd see something on the road. That's probably a realistic time frame. Right.
In the meantime, when you see speeders, call Officer Lopez. Where's telephone out? Consistently call him. Say we got speeding. You want somebody to be a repent while they're speeding, but he'll have a record of it. He'll have to do something about it. In the meantime, but just don't ignore it. Say somebody's speeding. Well, they're doing it again. Or you need to be proactive about it.
Before the 75. So are we gonna get this? I know I can name everybody on that street. I know everybody.
That's good. That's good. Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Stop recording. Okay.